Today, I want to talk to you about my journey to English fluency. The story I'm about to tell you shows you how I had to learn English the hard way, just like you, mostly with courses and teachers. I didn't have an English-speaking parent, and I didn't go to an English school. But what I did have was the determination to learn as much English as I could. Here's my story. Have you ever seen your dreams come true? As a child, I fell in love with travelling. I dreamt of going to faraway countries, meeting fascinating people, and seeing wonderful places. But above all, I dreamt of speaking in foreign languages in those wonderful places. To escape from my Spanish-only world, I would stand in front of the mirror and pretend to talk in English. Only it wasn't English at all, just some silly sounds I'd invented. In my young mind, I kept wishing I could speak English. I knew it wouldn't be an easy task. If all I had was my school lessons, becoming fluent in English was going to take me 2 lifetimes. But "it's impossible" wasn't an answer I was willing to accept, because I wasn't going to let go of my dream. Ever. So I decided to embark on my own English learning journey. Learning English has taken me to the most amazing places and has allowed me to live a wonderful life. Thanks to my dad. He was the one who set the ball rolling when he bought that irresistible English course. I simply loved those lessons where you followed my teacher, the main character, from his London home to his office. You heard him talk to his clients on the phone, shared his lunch, and went to the pub with him. Every evening after school, I'd go to places with my teacher without leaving my bedroom. That course was thrilling and totally addictive. I didn't know it then, but I had just discovered the secret to mastering a language. I'd made my English lessons an essential part of my life. The secret to mastering English is to make your lessons an essential part of your life. The secret to mastering English is to make your lessons an essential part of your life. What made it even more exiting was that my sister got hooked too, and Mum. I'm sure to the outside world we looked like a bunch of nutters. But to us, it was a window to a new world. Because of their work as academics, Mum and Dad needed to keep up their English. So, over the years, we had a number of private tutors. Some were great, others less so. I must have been about 12 when he first came to our flat in Madrid. I remember I was sitting next to him at the study table. He took out a little book full of humorous stories and asked me to read one out to him. I shook my head. No way! I'd rather die than speak English in front of him, I thought. In Spanish. He smiled and read it out loud himself. From what I remember, he didn't speak much Spanish. He talked to me in English, and I had no trouble understanding him. But for several weeks, I didn't open my mouth. I just listened. Eventually, Dad said that perhaps those English lessons weren't such a good idea after all. Perhaps he should ask my teacher not to come back anymore. That's when I started reading the stories to my patient tutor. It was hard, but not as hard as saying goodbye to my English lessons. It was around that time that my parents decided we should all put our English to the test. So for 2 summers in a row, the 5 of us got in the car and drove from Madrid to Folkestone in the south of England. We visited London and Canterbury, went to the beach, bought English toys, drank fresh milk, stared at the bobbies, and practiced our broken English with the locals. Then, over the years, there were other teachers and language courses. But what I remember most vividly is sitting down for hours in my room, learning on my own. I still had such a long way to go. There were so many things I couldn't do in English. Literature was my true passion, but reading my favourite books in another language felt like a distant dream. And then, one year at school, my English teacher encouraged me to read an abridged version of A Tale of Two Cities, the Dickens novel. Reading a whole book in English was a magical experience, even if it was abridged. That was the first of more than 1,000 books I've read in English ever since. I can clearly remember the first real English book I ever read. Dad had a large bookcase in his home office. It was full of all kinds of titles, many of them in English. One day I decided to try one. I browsed the shelves and picked The Great Gatsby, the 1925 novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I'm afraid I didn't choose it because it was a masterpiece. I didn't know that at the time. I chose it because it was only 150 pages long. I've read The Great Gatsby on several occasions over the years, and I often wonder just how much I understood that first time. But what I do know is that its opening lines made me fall in love with English literature, and I've never looked back. For me, those memorable lines are a poignant reminder of the head start I was given in life. I was lucky to be born in a family that values education above everything else. Because with education comes knowledge, and with knowledge comes freedom. Freedom to live the life of your dreams. When the time came to go to university, everyone assumed I'd do an English degree, but the syllabus looked boring to me. So I chose history instead, and spent an unreasonable amount of time studying English between history lectures. Soon I got curious about other languages. I started doing German and French. My sister was studying German too, and we often had our course recordings playing in the background in our bedrooms. Mum would stand in the corridor, muttering that our home seemed to have become the Tower of Babel. She didn't sound unhappy about it, though. My bus journey to uni near the centre of Madrid often took a full hour, so I always made sure I had an English book with me. The Old Man and the Sea, Alice in Wonderland, Animal Farm, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Third Man, Pride and Prejudice, Three Men in a Boat, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, King Lear, Robinson Crusoe, To Kill a Mockingbird. I read so many wonderful books on that bus. When I think of those titles, I flip their pages in my mind and relive their stories. It's like carrying a private library within me. When I finished my history degree, I applied to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland to do a master's in English literature. After all those years studying English, I was now going to spend 12 months of my life reading. Reading literature, the thing I love most, and reading it in English. It was the biggest reward I could dream of, and a magical year. After finishing my master's degree, I made two big decisions that I've never regretted. First, I chose to stay in Edinburgh instead of going back to Madrid. And then I decided never to work for someone else. I wanted to be independent. So instead of looking for a job, I set up my own business as a translator and language teacher. Translation turned out to be disappointingly dull, and I soon dropped it. But I became passionate about teaching. For me, every new student is an opportunity to change someone's life forever. Over the years, I've shifted my language lessons from the real world to online. That has given me the freedom to travel the world with Simon, my English husband, a professor in the linguistics department at the University of Edinburgh. We share a passion for language, cycling, and hill walking. Together, we've been to faraway countries, met fascinating people, and seen wonderful places. When I look back, I see how the English language has opened a door for me to another universe. It's given me a different way of seeing people and the world, a different way of talking about human emotions, history, food, life, and even the weather. And I hope it's made me a better person. As I write this in English, I can feel how much richer my life has become with a second language. But I wouldn't have got here on my own. My journey to fluency was made possible by my teachers. And just like they guided me, I now wish to guide you through your journey to English fluency. Thanks for watching.